Let me ask you a question about naturalization. What are the current criteria for naturalization, and what issues have arisen related to those criteria?
To apply for naturalization or citizenship, you have to be 18 years old or older, you have to have resided continuously in the United States for 5 years as a legal resident, and you have to pass a series of tests as well as background checks that would confirm a good moral character.
Are there any issues burbling up these days about those criteria?
Well, the question is probably more over how illegal immigrants, or illegal aliens as they're sometimes called, or undocumented workers, how they can apply for citizenship. So I don't think that there are as many controversies right now about how legal resident aliens can apply for citizenship as much as there are about illegal individuals in the United States who want to skip the residence part and become citizens.
How has the citizenship status of Native Americans evolved over time?
Well, Native American tribes were considered sovereign by the Constitution, which is codified in Article 1, Section 8. That article says that Congress may regulate interstate commerce, commerce between the United States and foreign nations, and with Indian tribes. So the addition of the Indian tribes implies that they thought that the Indian tribes were themselves sovereign. So through a series of court cases, however, the sovereignty of Native Americans did not become settled. So first they became domesticated, and what that means is that it could be a sovereign tribe, but within the confines of United States law. Then it wasn't until 1924 that the Congress actually gave full citizenship rights to all Native Americans in the United States.
Can you tell me what dual national citizenship is?
Well, that's the possibility of being a citizen of more than one country. And there are only a few countries around the world who openly embrace dual citizenship. For example, recently, Ted Cruz had to renounce his Canadian citizenship, whereas before he was a dual citizen with Canada and the United States.
How do you lose U.S. citizenship? How can it be lost?
A person can lose U.S. citizenship involuntarily by going to another country, taking up arms against the United States, by other treasonous acts, by swearing allegiance to another country, or even by gaining employment in another country if that employment implies some kind of allegiance or nationality.
And what differences are there between the rights of citizens and the rights of permanent residents?
Well, permanent residents in the United States are sometimes called green card holders. Their responsibilities to the community are identical to U.S. citizens, with a couple of exceptions. They cannot vote in the United States, and they often do not have full gun ownership rights and other rights that are very particular to U.S. citizens. However, they are supposed to pay taxes. They are supposed to obey all local, state, and federal laws.
You mentioned that they don't have the right to vote. Can you talk about the arguments that are made for and against allowing resident aliens to vote?
Well, the argument is that as a member of a community, whether you are a legal or illegal immigrant, you are bound by obligations and responsibilities that are put upon you by a community. Therefore, you should have the right to participate and help guide that community toward a majority-friendly set of obligations. So the argument is that somebody who lives somewhere essentially has a right to participate in decisions that affect that place. On the other side, of course, is the argument that if non-resident aliens or illegal immigrants vote, that they have really all the benefits of citizenship, so why bother? What is really the difference between living in the United States and being a citizen? If there is a line, that's one of the ways that you would not cross it.
I realize this question has a controversial element to it, but can you say what responsibilities Americans have towards undocumented immigrants?
The responsibility would be whether or not we want to show respect to people who want to be here voluntarily. In other words, if we choose to emigrate to a new country by any means, that shows a certain sense of respect for the local laws, at least ideally. So in return, the citizens, if they believe that person is making a contribution, should respect them back in kind by not harassing them, by not trying to disobey the Bill of Rights just because they can. employers should not steal wages. Employers should not be abusive. In other words, if you are undocumented, you are a vulnerable person in the community. You know that, but so do other people. And whether or not that vulnerability is taken advantage of is a moral question.
You said something a moment ago which I just want to follow up on. Does an undocumented worker living in the United States not have the protection of the Bill of Rights?
They do, but here's the problem. If they are abused and then they report that abuse, do they possibly suffer some kind of other retribution? In other words, complaining about police harassment, complaining about wage theft, complaining about some other legal or community harassment might make the person vulnerable to the legal system.